This is our Week 7 weekly recap. This week I have 4 areas I want to recall with you. The first one is our new vocabulary words. This week, from our knowledge rating scale, I saw that there are 3 words that were new for you: grapheme, onset and rhyme, and mediated identification. Hopefully, after all of your sorting activities, you are clear on these, but let's just make sure. Grapheme is the letters and the sounds that they make. So last week we learned about phonemes, and those are the smallest sounds that we hear in words. When you name those with a letter, they turn into graphemes. So anytime we have a letter that makes a sound, or letters together that make one sound, that would be called a grapheme. Onset and rhyme are parts of phonics. Not all words have onsets. They are the beginning of the word that comes before a vowel. The rhyme is the part of the word that begins with a vowel, continuing to the end of the word. So in the word pumpkin, umpkin is the rhyme, and the onset is p, per p. In the word fall, all is the rhyme, and f is the onset. When you have a word like only, there is no onset because the word begins with a vowel, and so the rhyme for the word only is only. This should clear up onset and rhyme. They're helpful when you're doing syllables with boys and girls, and they're also helpful when you're stretching out words. Many times those rhymes can turn into word families that you can use in your classroom to build our phonics knowledge. The last new vocabulary term is mediated identification, and this we saw on our chart between our immediate identification and mediated identification. Just think about mediated being when you do mediation on something, you're problem solving. And so mediated identification is where you have to problem solve a word in text that you don't know. Hopefully this clears this up. I know there's a lot of new vocabulary this week, and I think you did an excellent job on your activities, and hopefully you feel clear about these. The next area I want to recap with you are the 2 main branches of instruction. I kind of just touched on these, but when it comes to word ID, which is reading words in text, there's 2 ways to go about this task. Think about it when you're a reader. When you get to a word that you don't know, 2 things happen. You have to mediate and figure it out, or you recognize the word. Now, if you recognize the word, it means that you have learned these words in a flash. We call that our sight word fluency. As adults, we have a huge sight word fluency. Also, if we get to a word that we don't know, we can quickly use phonics chunks to figure it out. This is not so with our beginning readers. They have to go through the task of mediated instruction, and that mediated instruction is called decoding. We will talk more about decoding on the next bullet. So let's move on to that right now. Decoding text is something that you may still be confused about. It's an ongoing process, and you'll need to teach that in addition to phonics and word fluency. As we move into our unit on assessment in a couple weeks, you will learn how to assess a child's reading abilities by listening to them decode. This will help you understand more about what these cues are. Remember, if they get stuck on a word and they try to figure it out, and they're just looking at how the word looks, and I'm talking about that word all by itself, not with any of the words around it, but just looking at the word that they can't figure out, that is a visual clue. If they are not looking at the word, but they're looking at the picture, or they're skipping the word and making a guess, kind of like we did during the Word of the Day video you watched, that's a meaning clue. And last, if they skip the word and make a guess, and they're not really using the picture, but they're finding a word that maybe makes sense with the grammar of the sentence, and this happens probably the least often as the other 2 cues, that's called a structural cue. We'll get back to these again. Please feel okay about still having questions because this is kind of tricky, but we'll revisit it again and you'll become more confident about it. The last topic I want to talk about on our recap today is the lesson plan project. At this point, you should have emailed me your lesson plan topic. When you look at the rubric and project sheet, there are 2 shaded boxes. One says early literacy activities and one says emergent literacy activities. And those are together. And then on the other side, there's vocabulary and comprehension activities. This week, I want you to go to the box that has the early literacy and the emergent literacy activities and pick one topic. Not one from each, one topic total. And that is what you'll write your lesson plan about using our hack rubric and using the rubric that I've given you. If you have any questions, please get back to me. And hopefully this was a difficult but meaningful week for you. I gave you a ton of information, but it's the backbone of a solid kindergarten, first grade, and even second grade classroom instruction. This week, coming up for week 8, we'll be moving into comprehension, and we'll have a 2-part, 2-week series. So we'll see you there.